there, BSN Social Studies Tutu. By the way, how's your day? Alright, so are you still ready for another topic? But first, let me ask you some questions. What do you call those individuals who finds difficulty in reading or seeing things from a certain distance? Yes, you're right. They are individuals who are visually impaired. So for today, our topic is all about visual impairment. So together, let us explore, see, and visualize what those visually impaired individuals experience and have to go through. First, discuss its definition to be given by Miss Dauhog. Miss Dauhog, take it away.
Good day. Let's all tackle about what is visual impairment. Visual impairment is a term experts use to describe any kind of vision loss, whether it's someone who cannot see at all or someone who has partial vision loss. In this disability, the main senses affected is our sight. So, examples of visual impairments are color blindness, macular degeneration, amblyopia, glaucoma, cataracts, and the worst, blindness. So it's so very sad if you have this kind of disability, which is sight is very important to us. So in order to function, not just to give hope to the people who have suffered this kind of disability, people invented the eyeglasses, braille for blindness, and the most high-tech, which is portable magnifiers. So that's all my part. The next slide will be tackled about signs and symptoms of having a visual impairment. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Miss Daog. So now let's talk about the signs and symptoms of visual impairment. I am also a visually impaired individual. I was diagnosed with macular degeneration, which means that my central vision is very much distorted. So all I have now is my peripheral point of view, which is much functional than the central one. One of the first signs and symptoms of visual impairment is the closing or covering of one eye. I can vividly remember that I exactly did the same thing back then, where I was really confused and why my eyes were blurry. So I was trying to do this to justify or to determine on why I can see things at a certain distance. Yes, it was really difficult at first because I was confused. I was perplexed on why I was unable to see things clearly or properly. My desire to view things at a certain distance, or my desire to really see things clearly, urged me to do those particular actions or to do those particular practices in order for me to determine and why those things are happening. So second one is the squinting or frowning of eyes. This is an act in which we strive to squint in an attempt to see things clearly, diba? We try to do this to really see things clearly, and that is one signs and symptoms to consider if you are visually impaired. Third signs and symptoms of visual impairment is the complaint of not seeing things clearly. So when I was grade 6, that was the time when I found out that both of my eyes have grade, because I was complaining na why I can't see things, why my eyes are blurry, or why my view is blurry. So that time when we seek a doctor, and that's when we discovered that I really had problems with my eyes. The fourth signs and symptoms is the difficulty in reading or seeing objects. The difficulty itself indicates that you really have something going on with your eyes and must take these factors into consideration to really justify in what's going on with it. Finally is the aberrant or the unusual blinking of the eyes. So this is a common or a prevalent signs and symptoms visually impaired individuals experience. So I think this is their mannerism in the concept that they eagerly wanted to read or see things in a manner in which they couldn't really. They tried to push themselves into limits in a way in a way that they acted such way, or they did such action of blinking their eyes. We also have some factors that we can also consider to someone who is visually impaired. So number one is nearsightedness. It is when someone can see things from afar but their vision in a near distance is very clear. Doctors call it as myopia or the lazy eye. Next one is the farsightedness, opposite to the nearsightedness. They can see things from afar but not in a near distances. So another one is astigmatism. This is when you experience double vision. For example, for me, I am nearsighted and I have astigmatism, in which at night I see light in a lot of rays. A lot of rays, like double vision indeed. And the last one is the color blindness, in which you have trouble in figuring shades or intensity of colors. This usually affects men. And that's all for the signs and symptoms we must take into account or consider for us to know who is visually impaired individuals. And as someone who is visually impaired, I can really say that it is really hard to study or to learn with this kind of disabilities, because the instruments or our capabilities is very much limited. Thankfully, we have some instruments that we could utilize. We, us visually impaired, to utilize, such as our glasses, portable magnifiers, which I have a Mobilex, which I currently use now in my study. So to all visually impaired individuals out there, we can all do this.
I'm Arlene, and today we will talk about ways and how parents and teachers handled visually impaired students. First one is communication. Open and regular communication is crucial. Teachers and parents should engage in ongoing dialogue with a visually impaired student to gain insights into their unique needs, preferences, and required accommodations. This helps create a supportive educational environment. Second one is accessibility. All learning materials must be made accessible. This involves using various formats such as Braille, digital content compatible with screen readers, or tactile graphics. By ensuring accessibility, students can fully engage with the curriculum. Third one is physical environment. The classroom environment should be structured with the students' safety and mobility in mind. This means removing physical obstacles and creating clear auditory cues for navigation. An accessible physical environment is fundamental for visually impaired students' independence. Fourth one is assistive technology. Teachers need to become proficient with assistive technologies like screen readers or magnification software. It's not enough to have these tools available. They must also be correctly configured to meet the student's specific needs. Proficiency in assistive technology ensures the student can access the same information as their sighted peers. Fifth one is supportive teaching strategies. Supportive teaching strategies are essential for facilitating the learning process. Teachers should use descriptive language to convey visual information, offer verbal cues, and encourage active participation. This approach empowers visually impaired students to engage with the curriculum more effectively and ensures they don't miss out on essential educational experiences.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Makarat. Good day again, everyone. I am Kathy Jane Tuyor, and for my part, I will continue to explain the ways in which teachers and parents handle this disability, which is having a visual impairment. So, one of the ways to handle a visually impaired child or student is through collaboration. Work closely with special education professionals, orientation and mobility specialists, and other experts who can provide guidance and support for visually impaired students. This implies that for teachers and parents, it would be best if we sought advice from professionals who are experts in this kind of field or situation so that we would be guided on how to accommodate and be able to know the strategies for our learners who are visually impaired, and also to appropriately identify homework options and requirements they need. To ensure that visually impaired students succeed in life, educators and parents have a duty to build their blindness knowledge and share this knowledge with other case stakeholders, collaborate with experts to promote success, and foster community relationships. Next is the assessment and evaluation. Adapt assessment and methods to accommodate what the students need, such as providing extended time for exams or allowing for oral presentations instead of written assignments. This assessment is conducted to determine the needs for services from a teacher of students with visual impairments and to determine the appropriate goals and level of support needed. This will help the students with visual impairments to determine their abilities and needs. It will also enable them to make schoolwork accessible and be included to the greatest extent possible. It will provide students with opportunities with the same outcomes and the same benefits as students without disabilities. Furthermore, it will create better access to learning opportunities for students with disabilities. Another way also is peer support. Foster a supportive classroom environment by encouraging peer support and awareness. Teach other students how to assess their visually impaired classmates when needed. Peers' social support is essential as it helps enhance self-confidence in students who are visually impaired. It promotes inclusivity. We should always treat visually impaired students equally with other students and children. Teaching peer groups awareness will encourage them to help support visually impaired students. And also, we have the professional development. Continuously educate yourself about best practices for teaching students with visual impairments through workshops, seminars, and online resources. So, this means that for teachers and parents, it is very important to be knowledgeable about how to teach a student or a child with visual impairment. Having the skills and training will help us to provide with information regarding the specialized strategies needed to teach a student or a child who is visually impaired. So, disability is defined by the World Health Organization as the umbrella term for impairments, activity limitations, and participation restrictions, referring to the negative aspects of the interaction between an individual with a health condition and that individual's contextual factors, the environment, and personal factors. So, this definition underscores that disability is not only a health issue, but also an issue that affects a person's state in life and the environment he or she is in. A person's self identity and his or her perspective of the world around him or her are affected by both ability and disability. A person's disability makes him or her a unique individual who is at times shunned from places and activity. They have to be acknowledged as part of the spectrum of diversity. They have to be recognized as human beings who should not be discriminated against, but rather understood, accepted, and tolerated. And that's at the end for our presentation, our reporting about visual impairment. And before we end, we will leave you this quote: challenges are what makes life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. That would be all. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Miss Kathy. And to my fellow visually impaired individuals out there, please see the good thing in you. And always remember that there is always abilities in every disabilities. We can do this. And lastly, we are not disabled. We are just differently abled. God bless us all, and thank you again for listening to our discussion. We hope that you do understand something out from it.